The objective of our Cool Hunt was to understand the gap which consumers face in the search for accommodation whenever they need to relocate. In the process of opportunity scanning, since all the members of our research team are new to Canada, our research began from within each of our personal circles, which we have established in the last 6 months. We looked for common ground and we tried to find problems which resonate with everyone who has been through the experience of house hunting this year or in the recent past. Our research methodology included targeted questions which were inspired from the challenges we faced while we were searching for accommodation before we moved to Canada, as well as from peer feedback and community inputs. Our online survey included 10 questions, and we tried to keep our in person interviews conversational so that participants could engage with us as naturally as possible. We were able to explain the purpose of our research fairly clearly, and people were able to articulate some of that in their responses during the interviews. Results of our online survey showed that Kijiji and Facebook were the two online portals used most often in the process of house hunting. We also observed that a majority of users conducted their house hunting online as opposed to through paper ads, referrals, or real estate agents. We further observed that more than 60% of participants visited three or more properties before making a final decision. Despite all of that, less than 50% of our participants found an ideal or close to ideal accommodation. Major challenges our participants reported facing included lack of information, inaccurate information, and poor or no responses from homeowners when consumers reached out to them to clarify features listed on the house postings. Since the problem resonated so easily with consumers, we were able to engage with them in meaningful dialogue rather than a question answer type response. We had no reason to believe that the consumer were giving us any inaccurate information, and we found that several respondents tried to suggest how an ideal experience would have worked. We asked consumers what would improve the experience of house hunting for them, or what an ideal experience would be, and what they felt would improve the process. We observed that consumers were willing to help us in identifying the gap as well as recommend possible improvements.
No, because I remember that they were saying that a lot of information about the house wasn't disclosed on the siting, like the sites that they went to, and there were a lot of restrictions which they were not informed of when they on the website, and when they went to meet the owner of the house, they were informed of those restrictions and other, defects or limitations in the house and who else is living and all.
For the most part, the experience of house hunting seemed tedious and unnerving due to the nature of the activity and lack of information provided. There was only a specific time window that consumers could use to search for housing, since homeowners would try to fill vacant spaces as soon as possible, and because locking down a place would mean paying rent without actually having moved in. One repeated observation based on postmodern behavior was that consumers wanted a virtual tour of the premise without having to physically go to the location, which for many international students and people who were moving into a new city or state was unfeasible.
The second thing was finding a reliable source of getting in touch with the house owner itself, because sometimes one of the websites I use was Kijiji. Yeah. And sometimes it only has an email option that people don't reply to. Sometimes it only has a phone number that sometimes they don't even pick up. Right. So that was the second thing. The third thing was actually getting in touch with the landlord in time before the ad was taken off, because I had a few instances of that. Some things regarding the type of utilities that you're getting with the rent, I think that will be useful, because sometimes the house owners say that all the utilities are included for within the rent, but then you might not have drying with for instance, the washing machine or something like that. So I think like there should be a general list that should be a part of all of these housing websites, and then they should just check them off. I think that could be useful. Okay.
Like listings. Right. That becomes very time consuming. In the sense, we have to reach out to the people. That's very realistic, because if you are liking some of the listings, you need to approach people. But it's very superficial. The information that we get over the website is very superficial. You still have to do the hard work of reaching out to people, right, and then getting information.
It had a few limitations, and in terms of contacting the person or the owner or the broker I would prefer looking for a laundry unit in the unit itself instead of like a laundry room.
Okay.
And apart from that, maybe it has good amenities like a party room, food, and a gym.
Nice.
And also, one thing that's important is that it's easily accessible to like the groceries and stuff, so we don't need to travel much.
Okay.
And something close to a subway.
Okay.
Close to a TTC.
That's great.
Our analysis also showed us that the biggest challenge consumers face included reliability of the posting as well as incomplete information. Details of utilities and other factors such as being pet friendly, smoking, non-smoking, and other uses and limitations of common living areas were sometimes inaccurate or unspecified. When consumers attempted to reach out to the person who posted the ad, they would often not get responses in time, during which the listings would often get occupied.
I think right now, specifically what we're having an issue with is some structural stuff with the house. So we're having some issues, and it is still under warranty. But here in Canada, I think the warranty person is called Carry-On. So now we're doing a little bit of fighting with them on stuff that should be fixed, and they're saying that it doesn't have to be fixed. So maybe a little bit more information on the exact details, what was done structurally, and some
the
maybe
conditions,
issues
more
like-
accurate description about the condition of the place,
Exactly.
maybe.
Yeah.
And
Another problem that international students faced was that often landlords would require information such as credit scores, which was difficult for these consumers. When they attempted to reach out to the person who posted the ad, again, they would not get a response either in time or at all.
I look for a house now.
Right. So I think, as you said, like it's hard to establish credibility sometimes because the landlords, obviously, they're skeptical giving away the house to anybody. We have certain interfaces on websites where landlords can easily connect with the people who want to be potential tenants.
Right.
This could be video chat, those kind of things. And sometimes if that's provided through the website, then it would be much easier to connect.
Right?
Okay.
But then after researching a bit, usually they require you to have a credit score and all of those details, which being new in Canada, I don't have at the moment. Again, I was more limited, and it was for people who had a bigger credit score and who were looking to move to bigger apartments, which were on the higher side. But on
That was the most important part. So the first thing that we could do is find someone who already has been here, like who has a credit score, so that we could get our ideal place.
Right.
So that was the only thing, because when you go and look for houses, the only thing they ask is a credit score. And as being an international student, you're like new to the country,
Right.
so you don't have the credit score. It's like bottom, like zero.
Right.
So that was the main, what you call it, confirmed.
Right.
Kind of like anybody could say no to you, like at any certain point.
Right. So it's
So-
a lack of accountability.
Of course, there should be certificates like
Right.
I'm getting this place and it's confirmed now. You can't say no
Right.
When we suggested a video recording tour of the premises, users responded favorably, and we suggested doing so with the technology available at hand, such as the smartphone camera and a panoramic view, which most phones have.
Maybe since we were looking all around the GTA, we did a lot of driving to get to these places. So to make it a little bit more efficient, it would have been helpful to have, say, virtual tours of these sorts of places before deciding to drive all the way out there.
Right.
Not all of them had those. Some places are starting to do that, but not everyone. So that would be a good.
Options which better suit our needs, like the customers have and what they're looking for. I don't know any of the sites. Very few sites have the tailoring in terms of like they have 3D modeling as well as AR, VR embedded within the website, which show like the whole setup,
Right.
have a trial run kind of thing,
Okay.
which is good.
Okay.
If you have certain customization, it sounds good for me.
Another problem that users repeatedly faced was that sufficient filters were unavailable on most listings. There seemed to be no particular format or structure in place to streamline the listing process.
We basically set our parameters when searching online. So we set the price first, so our minimum of what we wanted to spend and our maximum of what we want to spend. there's also features through the site we were using that allow you to select the number of bedrooms you want. So we just set those parameters and then fine tune from
Like no like questions asked.
Right. Right.
Of course, like because Kijiji, even on Kijiji, if you go there, it's a hassle. It's like a million different threads. The text is so small, and it's really hard even to look for something.
Right.
And most of the time, the pictures that are like posted over here, they were like graphical generated, like
Right,
not even real. They're like graphics. We're like, what?
And there's no one to vet that pictures.
No.
Yeah.
And even if you call at that place to
Right.
get to know that, they just won't take your call, or this is the wrong number, and the sources are not credible.
Right.
If you
Yeah.
call like 50 threads,
Right.
you would get answers back from like 3 or 4.
Okay.
That's the main thing about Kijiji.
Great. Just as a last question, so if I talk about your ideal place, what would that be? Like, would you want location as one of the parameters for that place, or other stuff?
No.
Parameters for that place, or other stuff?
No, the most important thing would be it should be convenient.
Okay. Got it.
That's the main thing. And
Some challenges which echoed during our research are shown below. Furthermore, preferences for essential information that consumers demanded, including more elaborate price descriptions, better location guidelines, laundry, utility availability, and so on. About 90% of responders wanted an online platform with information available in a more structured way, making the process more systemic. To bridge the gaps that we found, we suggest a product which we title as Sherlock Holmes. Based on our findings, we are looking to develop an online portal which will take into consideration the major challenges we observed during our research. We are analyzing using a virtual tour of an apartment, room, or house made by tenants using resources available such as panoramic view photos available on most smartphones. In conclusion, we have mapped the consumer priorities and identified a gap which needs to be addressed, and the next step of our project will include ideation of the product and a rudimentary prototype of the same. We will then take consumer feedback based on what we develop and improve it incrementally. Thank you.